Thank you all for coming back to check out my next video. I appreciate the behind the scene comments that y'all gave me, some feedback, the likes, the shares, all that. Really appreciate it. I'm just starting off, and it's new to me to get in front of camera and kind of talk about my thoughts to the whole world. So y'all gotta bear with me. I'm doing my best. But I wanted to create a video that talked about the history of Africa and then the history of Nigeria briefly. I'm not a historian, so some things I picked up on the way when I was learning more about Nigeria, and just talking with other Nigerians and even other Africans. A lot of them weren't too familiar with how it came to be, like coming to the name, the different countries. So I felt, okay, well, I know a little bit. Let me share what I know. I'm sure y'all can expound on it. I'm not going to get into details. I'm just trying to bring out just the basics. And of course, do your own research. You can go into it deeper, and it does get deep. Might take you on an emotional journey, but just hang in there. The reason why I'm doing this also is, when you're doing business and whether back home or anywhere else, you want to kind of know the culture, how things happened, how it started off. That way you still have that respect when you're coming in and you're coming with your ideas. So I don't want to be coming from a paternalistic approach. I want to understand how Nigerians governed themselves in the past and how I can complement that. Of course, in a new age, so bring it up to today's standards and some aspects of the community. But I definitely want to show that respect, especially to my ancestors that died prematurely because of colonialism and all the other atrocities that happened on the continent. Like, share, subscribe. Please give me some more feedback. I'm always looking to improve. I'll continue to put out as many videos as I can and to keep this channel very interesting for y'all. So looking at the first slide, you see the different names for so-called Africa. So starting with Africa, Akibalon, Kush, Kemet, and Ethiopia. With Africa, it was named after a great Roman commander named Scipius Africanus. This was around 200 BC. He fought against another great military commander named Hannibal Barca, and Hannibal was coming from the Carthaginian army, northern Africa. When I was looking, just doing some research on how they look like, history paints Hannibal as white, but when you just look at the track record of those that create the history books, I just say question everything. But anyway, moving on. Basically, Hannibal was a great military leader of the Carthaginian army. The city lies in what is now Tunisia. It was known as the richest of the Mediterranean cities in the 3rd century. So of course, when you're rich, you want to expand, you want to grow. So they began to grow. This started infringing on the Roman Empire that was also growing and very massive. Everyone knows about the Roman Empire. So they started fighting, and it began known as the Two Punic Wars. Hannibal would be defeated by Africanus. Some say he was killed, others say he committed suicide. After the battle, the Roman Empire named that region Africa. And then apparently other people decided to name all of Africa. I guess it was called, leaning into my next one, Akibalon, or some other more historic names. But just going with Akibalon, the next name, it was a Arabic meaning of the land of the blacks. So obviously it's Africa. And then the next three, you have Kush, Kemet, Ethiopia, biblical. Of course, most people are familiar with these names. And that talks about the different names of Africa. We do know for a fact that we are not African. We were given that name by outsiders. But for simplicity and to stay on task, Africa is what I'm going to be going by. Looking at the next slide, you see a figure. Hopefully a lot of us know who this is. You can't talk about Africa without talking about one of the most richest, or he was the richest man in Africa, really the whole world, at a time of Europe's dark ages. His name is Mansa Musa. I didn't really look too much in this background, but this dude has some serious wealth on him, especially in gold. So much that he made a pilgrimage to Mecca, and he had to pass through Egypt, where he gave out so much gold he threw off the whole Egyptian economy. And everyone knows Egypt, had their stuff together. They had a lot of wealth. So for someone not as known, I think at the time, to come in, just start giving gold to people on the roads, I think just as just gifts to throw off a whole economy. I mean, that's something serious. Like, just think about someone doing that today to America's economy. Like, just put so much product and value into a market, and this is the outside coming in, putting it into the American economy, and all of America is thrown off balance. Like, that's some serious wealth right there. So while I was doing this, unfortunately, you bring a lot of attention to yourself when you do stuff like this. So the Europeans took notice of the richest, and they were curious to see where he was getting all this gold from. So of course it's going to pique their interest, and some make it the argument to say this is the beginning of the land grab strategists. So with greed comes slavery, and we should be generally well versed on the Arab slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, and what that entails. Like I said, I'm not trying to do full history in this video. If you want to know more, then of course, please look up this information yourself. But as more people came onto the continent, taking slaves, they start to explore, and then that's when they start seeing the riches of Africa. Then of course the race for land pursued, which led to many conflicts amongst the European nations. Everyone's trying to get all the wealth. Everyone's trying to get the gold, get the resources, because Europe didn't have a lot of resources like that. And late in the race came Germany, which really started to cause even more conflicts. During all this time, King Leopold II was the cause for genocide in the Congo. About 13 million people were tortured, and he was known to have the hands of forced laborers cut off if they didn't meet daily quotas. So a little bit of background on him. If you don't know who he is, definitely research him. He was a devil. I mean, there's no other way to describe him. That's what he did. He came to steal, kill, and destroy, and make himself rich, and his country, Belgium, that's where he's from, make Belgium rich. So there's a documentary on him that you can look at, but I'll just put it in a nutshell. He came from the Belgium region. Belgium was poor at the time. I can't remember the exact dates, if it was before World War One. I think it was before World War II. But anyways, Belgium was poor. He wanted to make Belgium great. He wanted to bring wealth to Belgium. So he started looking at areas where he can do that. Around this time, it was about almost to 1900. America's automobile enterprise factories were starting to boom. So you need a lot of, you need tires. And for the tires, you need rubber. Congo had a lot of trees that provided the rubber. He saw it, capitalized it, made a whole industry of mostly rubber, and getting that rubber, shipping it out. And he forced the Congolese people to, of course, do all the work. He represented it as him doing like a missionary type job, or I'm just coming to bring people the word and civilize them, and you know, so that's how he was able to get Europe to go along with it, because at first they wasn't trying to give him any money, but they was like, all right, fine, in the interest of bringing civilization. He went over there, and I mean, the rest is history. He was a brutal guy. He had his, I guess, first in command or whatever, taking care of the daily operations. If they will weigh the rubber that the workers get, and if they came up short, it'd be like, okay, that's a hand. So they will go over, chop up the hand, and they'll put it in a basket, and they'll deliver it to whoever is in charge. The sick, really messed up part of it was that he didn't have his Belgium people do it. He had certain Congolese overseers do it. So I mean, just think like, yo, why are you cutting whatever? I'm not even trying to get into it, but yeah, that's what he did. You see in the pictures, you know, missing hands. Definitely look into it. You know, everyone wants to talk about the Holocaust as if it's the only mega atrocity that happened in the world, like it's the worst atrocity that happened in the world. No, it was slavery, and of course, then you get the Congolese, the Congo genocide that occurred. All right, so when all the issues and the conflicts was happening with the race into Africa, all the European nations trying to get their own piece of the African cake, you know, they was fighting amongst themselves. So it was Otto von Bismarck that decided, hey, we need to all sit down. We're not going to win if we're fighting each other. There's enough of Africa to go around, and mind you, there was no indigenous leaders in this discussion. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, he's just saying, yeah, there's enough of Africa to go along. Let's just sit down and divide it out, and we'll try to be fair amongst each other. This conference, called the Berlin Conference, was held November 1884 to February 1885 in Bismarck's own personal residence. So once again, just imagine you have a bunch of outsider Westerners outside of your house. Or let's just make this realistic. So say you have a bunch of people that live in another state, and they're all investors, and they come into your town, and they're looking around. They see your house, they see you got a brownstone or whatever, and they start talking amongst themselves. Outside, they're talking amongst themselves. They're like, all right, so which part of his backyard do you want? And I'll take this part of his front yard, and just going on conversation. You're gonna be looking at them like y'all lost your minds. So that's, you know, that's what happened with Africa. We had other people come, saw what they liked. They was fine amongst themselves. They wanted to make sure everyone in their group benefits, and they divvied it up amongst themselves. And there you have the Berlin Conference. This is how you get the borders that we have now. And you know, it wasn't created by our ancestors. No, it was created by Europeans, outsiders, terrorists, just sick, wicked people. And this is how you have Africa, a lot of Africa now. Now, just looking at the map, you can see which European nations took which. That section that's white is Ethiopia. You know, Ethiopia was the only one that wasn't colonized. And yeah, it's that's just how it went down. All right, so now I'll get into Nigeria. There was 4 or 5 kingdoms, main empires in Nigeria at the time before colonialism. So you got the Nok Empire, and they were good with artifacts, the sculptures that you will see of people's faces. Then of course the Benin Empire, Enri Kingdom, I think I'm saying it right. very rich history. There was very, I guess you can say it was kind of like a Rome, better, better than Rome. But they were good with military. They was good with business. So I'm sure a lot of y'all hear about Igbos. The East are really good businessmen and business people, and it stems from this kingdom. So there's still more I'm reading up on, but it's very, very fascinating. Then you had Sokoto Kingdom up in the north. Big population up there, and a lot of the land mass. I think it's they're like more than 50% of the population of Nigeria. So, and of course Yoruba, Oyo Kingdom. All right, so just to fast forward, so now you have the British traders that came together to install the Royal Niger Company, taking over the southern kingdoms. Eventually, they would get into the north. They had interest in the north, and they wanted to put their foothold in there. So they went over, got their army, destroyed the House of Sokoto Kingdom, and called it the Northern Protectorate, which later on just became all of Nigeria. After World War II, British leaves Nigeria to be independent, and it just left a mess of unfair rulership. Conflicts arose with the Igbo and the Northerners. From there, you get the separatist group called Biafra that didn't like the treatment that was happening to the Igbos in the north. And also their oil reserves were being used by everyone else, and they couldn't see the benefits of it. Then series of government overthrows, coups, etc. The chaos that you see today, which we all know as Nigeria today. Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully you all got a lot out of it. Definitely leaves a lot to think about. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know any feedback that you have for me. Until then, stay tuned for the next video.